Hey everyone, I'm having a blast here on YouTube. But the one drawback to YouTube is I feel like I'm just speaking at you and not interacting with you. So on today's episode, you're gonna see some clips from Row Talk's race on TikTok, where you'll get to see me interacting with some people about white identity. Enjoy.
This is for my fellow white folk. I am Hedge Rider, and I am asking you to stitch this video and riff on this question with me. What happens when we remove whiteness as an identity? What happens in your head? What happens in your concept of yourself?
Hi, Hedge Rider, Row here. I'm not sure what I think about your exercise of imagining us without white identity, because I think that is our standard. That is what we do as white people. We see ourselves as sort of a standard human being or without race. So I typically encourage the people I talk to consider white identity and what it means to be white, particularly in the United States, particularly now. But if you think I missed the point of your message or just generally have things the wrong way around, please stitch back.
Why is white identity still a thing, given its tumultuous history?
Whiteness absolutely has a tumultuous history. But white identity? I think we white folks need to reconcile what it is before we would have the luxury of discarding it and moving on from it. But what happened when a New York City public school attempted to start to reconcile white identity? Well, my fellow white folks on TikTok were pissed. What you're about to see is the first few seconds of 3 different white people who were pushing back against this. They clearly thought it was a big joke. Each one of them has a smirk on their face, and you'll see how I responded to them.
So I just read somebody in New York, they made a chart for us white people listing 8 white identities. This shit's just getting out of hand.
Hey, sir, 2 questions for you. 1, how much time did you spend reviewing the material? And 2, did you find anything of value in it, or did you reject it all completely?
A New York public school principal sent a letter to white parents advocating for white abolition.
Hi there. I ask you the same 2 questions I asked someone else on here. 1, how much time did you spend reviewing the materials? And 2, did you find anything at all of value in them, or did you reject it all completely?
A principal at a New York school sent a list of white identities to white parents.
Hi there, 2 questions for you. 1, how much time did you spend looking over the material? And 2, did you find anything of value in it, or did you reject it all completely? And I'm sure you can guess, none of the 3 of them responded to my questions. I questioned them in that way because I highly suspected that none of them actually learned anything of significance about the curriculum. They were simply responding emotionally. They had already decided they were against it before they learned anything at all about it. They reacted emotionally, and they did so publicly on social media. For clout, I guess. Anyway, let's move on.
But as a white person, it's not really a culture. You can have culture, like I'm hella Irish, obviously, and that's a culture. But just being white, it's not a culture. I can't relate to you just because you're white.
Okay, so this is a very common way of thinking right now, that there is no white culture. For example, genetically, I am mostly from the Germany and Switzerland area, and people are much more comfortable talking about Germanic culture than they are white culture. And I understand, it's easier to identify, easier to discuss. However, I would argue, whether you call it culture or not, that there are certain things that I inherited, not from being German, but from being white. And when I encounter another white person, there are some things that I guess we probably do have in common with each other. Common experiences simply by being white in this country.
White race doesn't actually exist. It was a social construct created by fair-skinned Europeans in the 1500s.
Yes, absolutely. The white race is a social construct, but unfortunately all that means is that it shouldn't have existed, not that it doesn't exist. I think we white folks need to accept the fact that we do have a race so we can start addressing the implications of being part of that race. But what do you think? Join me over on TikTok for these conversations.